The Dallas Cowboys are obsessed with San Francisco 49ers linebackers, and the Cowboys also aren't very good planners. So the 49ers have used that to their benefit in the trade market. Take a look at what the Cowboys, who have former 49ers coach Nick Sorensen aboard as their special teams coordinator, have tried to pull off in the past few days. First, they talked to Azeez Al-Shaair, the former 49ers linebacker who just re-signed with the Houston Texans. When Al-Shaair didn't work out for the Cowboys, they traded with the 49ers for Dee Winters. This happened on the Friday of the NFL draft. Winters, an expendable piece for a San Francisco team that had 9 linebackers on the roster, fetched the 49ers a 5th-round pick. And the Cowboys also signed former 49ers linebacker Curtis Robinson. So Winters for a 5. Good business for the 49ers. They pre-planned this because they stalked the linebacker room. They changed defensive coordinators, and they saw that Winters was a player they didn't need anyway. Anything they could get for him would be a solid return, and a 5th-round draft pick by anyone's measure is a solid return. But that's not the only business that the 49ers and the Cowboys collaborated on this offseason. Back in March, the 49ers sent pick number 92, a 3rd-rounder, to Dallas in exchange for the defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa. So, final scorecard of this business between San Francisco and the Dallas Cowboys. 49ers added Osa Odighizuwa. The Cowboys added Dee Winters. 49ers added pick number 152. The Cowboys added pick 92. 152 is a 5th-rounder. 92 is a 3rd-rounder. So simple math tells us that the 49ers dropped 60 picks from 92 to 152 while picking up Osa Odighizuwa at a position of big-time need and losing Dee Winters at a position where they definitely did not need the linebacker. According to the Jimmy Johnson draft point value scale, and it'll be fun to use Jimmy Johnson's scale for this because Jimmy was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys back during their big-time rivalry with the 49ers in the 90s. And, of course, he executed a trade that worked out hugely in Dallas's favor, Charles Haley from San Francisco to the Cowboys. But according to the Jimmy Johnson scale, that is 101 points of value. 132 points for pick number 92, 31 points for pick number 152. 101 points of value, that is equivalent to an early 4th-round pick. So when you do all the math, when you simplify all of this, the 49ers were able to trade for Osa Odighizuwa, a good young defensive tackle with 52 pressures last season, doubling their pressure expectation just like that in 2026. The 49ers were able to acquire Odighizuwa for the value of a 4th-round pick once all that Dee Winters math is factored in. That is a win for San Francisco on paper. And the win for the 49ers on paper was all made possible by the fact that the Cowboys didn't plan all too well. They signed Osa Odighizuwa to a 4-year deal worth up to $80 million just last year in 2025. And then all of a sudden they traded him away to the 49ers with 3 seasons still left on the contract. The reason why they did this is because they, in the meantime, traded for 2 other veteran defensive tackles. First, Kenny Clark, who came over from the Green Bay Packers in the Micah Parsons trade, and then Quinnen Williams, who headed over to Dallas right ahead of the 2025 deadline. The combination of Clark and Williams made Osa Odighizuwa redundant, especially at $20 million per year, so they were backed into a corner of trading him. 49ers got that business done right at the start of the new league year when the Cowboys, cash-strapped in terms of cap space, needed to free up some room. So the 49ers actually used Dallas's poor planning as leverage against them, took Osa Odighizuwa off the books for pick number 92. Then you fast forward to the NFL draft late in April, and the 49ers, well, they had stocked their linebacker roster intentionally. Wasn't like Dallas, who stocked that defensive tackle room probably as a byproduct of the Micah Parsons trade, where Kenny Clark came over. They were just looking for some kind of value to come over from the Green Bay Packers, and then it messed up their plan for Odighizuwa. The 49ers were busy stockpiling the linebacker room to create a succession plan for Dee Winters, who is only under contract for this 2026 season. They re-signed Dre Greenlaw, who of course was away from the team for a year. He spent 2025 with the Denver Broncos. That immediately bumped Winters down from linebacker 2 to linebacker 3, and then the moves that the 49ers had been making in recent seasons, like the third-round drafting of Nick Martin, like the addition of Tatum Bethune, like the signings of Luke Gifford and Garrett Wallow, that all made Dee Winters very, very expendable for the 49ers, and therefore allowed them to shop him and ultimately receive the 5th-round pick, which softened the price of the trade for Osa Odighizuwa. Could all be viewed as one larger trade with the Cowboys between the Osa trade and the Winters trade. In fact, they first engaged with the Cowboys on Dee Winters back when they had talks regarding Osa Odighizuwa in March. John Lynch on one side, Stephen Jones for the Cowboys on the other. Now the business is done, and San Francisco has themselves a defensive tackle. The Cowboys have themselves another linebacker. And, back to that obsession with the 49ers linebackers, this is also what reputation will get you around the league. The 49ers built up an absolute powerhouse at the linebacker position, starting way back, I would say, in 2018 when Fred Warner was drafted to San Francisco. Robert Saleh, the 49ers' first defensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, was a former linebackers coach. So he made sure to build that position up from his coordinator's vantage point with elite coaching at his side. DeMeco Ryans was one of the 49ers' early assistant linebackers coaches, and Johnny Holland has been the head guy at that position throughout the entire Lynch-Shanahan tenure. Now he is replaced in title by KJ Wright, but Johnny Holland is still on the staff in a higher technical position for the 49ers. But they have poured a tremendous amount of resources into developing linebackers, and by 2022, the high watermark of this, the 49ers had a cheat code at the linebacker position as far as their depth chart. Fred Warner, linebacker 1, Dre Greenlaw, linebacker 2, Azeez Al-Shaair, linebacker 3. It is too bad that the 2022 49ers ran out of healthy quarterbacks, because they had one of the great linebacker cores that we've ever seen in that season. Anyway, the 49ers' success at the linebacker position has made other teams emulate them. Other teams have wanted a piece of this. Therefore, you see the Dallas Cowboys wanting Azeez Al-Shaair. You see the Houston Texans, who now have DeMeco Ryans as their head coach, wanting to keep Azeez Al-Shaair even more than the Dallas Cowboys wanted him. And then you see the Cowboys trading for a Dee Winters, and you see the Dallas Cowboys also signing another ex-49ers reserve in Curtis Robinson. This offseason has seen some wild rumors. New York Giants beat writers were saying that the Giants had a chance to trade for Fred Warner, which they obviously didn't. But again, the 49ers' reputation at linebacker precedes them, and that is why their guys at that position are so popular around the league. In fact, the 49ers were able to gain a compensatory pick, essentially, out of the fact that Dre Greenlaw walked to the Denver Broncos last offseason for a price tag of about $13 million annually. So one season with Dre away, he ended up missing San Francisco. Broncos ended up cutting him, and now the 49ers have Dre Greenlaw at a much cheaper price tag of about $6 to $7 million annually. So it's all fascinating. The 49ers have leveraged a true position of strength into profit because of the demand for their linebackers around the league. Let's talk Osa Odighizuwa and that defensive line, though, because that's where the 49ers have poured the vast majority of resources this offseason. In fact, out of their 7 original 2026 draft picks, the 49ers used over half of them for on-defensive linemen. Not just through the actual draft, but through trades that emptied out that pick arsenal. Remember, the 3rd-round pick, number 92, went to Dallas for Osa Odighizuwa over a month before the actual NFL draft. Then you rewind several months before the 2025 trade deadline. 49ers sent a 6th-round pick to New England for Keion White. So that's 2 defensive linemen acquired with 2026 draft capital far before the draft even started. Then they used a 2nd-round pick, number 70 overall, on Romello Height. And then they used a 4th-round pick, number 107 overall, on Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. And this ties right back to the Dee Winters trade. Number 152, the 5th-rounder, is what came back from the Cowboys for Dee Winters. The 49ers took that 5th-round pick, number 152, packaged it with number 58, their original 2nd-round selection, and traded it to Cleveland, and that is what netted them number 70 and number 107. Number 70, of course, Romello Height, the defensive lineman. Number 107, Grayson Halton, the defensive tackle out of the University of Oklahoma. So, if you want to put everything together, the 49ers, in their trade work with the Dallas Cowboys, if you follow all of this to its conclusion, their 2 trades with the Cowboys ultimately netted them Osa Odighizuwa, Romello Height, and Grayson Halton, 3 of the offensive linemen added to the roster over the course of the past 2 months. It has been a massive, massive makeover of the 49ers defensive line. The only holdover projected to be a part of their top 8, top 9, top 10 rotation in 2026, the only holdover from 2024, just 2 seasons ago, is Nick Bosa. So everyone else, it's out with the old, in with the new. A lot of people were crying bloody murder last offseason when the 49ers were releasing veterans who weren't good run defenders. Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd. Well, it makes a whole lot of sense now. They started with Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, C.J. West, and the draft in 2025. And now they've continued with all of the additions that I've already listed, plus a few more. 3 undrafted free agents, Mikhail Kamara, Bryson Eason, and James Thompson. That is a defensive end out of Indiana and a pair of defensive tackles in undrafted free agency. The 49ers, relative to the last 2 years, maybe even relative to the last 3, remember that they were really short on defensive ends during the Super Bowl year in 2023. They had a trade midstream for both Randy Gregory and Chase Young that year. 49ers, relative to then, are absolutely stacked along the defensive line. Now, a lot of these guys will have to prove themselves at the NFL level, but even given the need for rookie development, the 49ers are already in a much better position as far as their veteran pool goes along the defensive line than in very recent times. The additions of Osa Odighizuwa, Keion White, you could even say Cam Sample, have put the 49ers on a good track that combines with returns from injury from Nick Bosa, Mykel Williams, and Alfred Collins. All 3 of those guys should be ready to go for 2026, and they will provide the 49ers with a boost that they certainly need coming off of only 20 sacks, a league low, in the 2025 season. Also, speaking of 49ers linebackers and value, here's something to chew on as we leave on this Wednesday. Fred Warner, if there were a redraft in 2018, knowing who Fred Warner has become for the 49ers, he would not be picked down at number 70, same spot as Romello Height, by the way. That's where Fred Warner went back in that 2018 draft. Fred Warner would be the number 4 overall pick. Other 49ers who would fare well in a redraft, George Kittle. He wouldn't go 146. That's where he went in the 5th round in 2017. He'd go number 4 overall in 2017 as well. And Brock Purdy, instead of 262, the famous Mr. Irrelevant number, Brock Purdy would go number 2 overall. I love the redraft because it actually is tethered in objectivity. It's tethered in what has this guy done in the NFL versus what I think he'll do. People can't just pretend that they know how good a player will be or how he'll perform. And that is what a lot of this mock draft garbage is based on. The redraft thought process actually ties in reality. What has happened in NFL, who has starred, who actually deserved to go higher with the benefit of hindsight. And Warner, number 4 overall, Kittle, number 4 overall, Brock Purdy, number 2 overall. Those are some of the 49ers' biggest draft steals now that we've had a chance to look at how their careers have progressed. Another steal from the Dallas Cowboys? Well, we'll see. But the 49ers have conducted some efficient business in their trades with Dallas. And yes, the Cowboys are obsessed with 49ers linebackers.